Sarabi decided that she is the star of the video today. Excuse full face of makeup with pajama mode. Tonight I have an art class that I assist in teaching, and generally I try to get my hair and makeup done in the morning so I don't have to rush, but I don't get dressed until like half an hour before I have to leave because I live with these little creatures right here. And anyone who lives with these little creatures right here knows that hair is going to get on everything, especially if you have a predominantly black wardrobe. Excuse me. But I've just gotten back kind of into I have things to yammer about and no one to talk to, so let's turn on a camera mode lately. I think part of it is because I'm on TikTok so often now. Like, I try to post multiple videos on TikTok per day, which it's easier to do that there because your FYP, for anyone non-TikTok, is catered entirely to you. It learns the kinds of things that you like, the types of topics you want to listen to, the types of people you'd like to see again based on who you've commented on. Its algorithm is actually probably the best out of any video sharing platform I've been on, because very rarely do I get anything that's completely irrelevant to me. Whereas with YouTube, YouTube is too sensitive with it sometimes, and then not sensitive enough. Like, one day I'll turn on YouTube, go to my homepage, and there's like 30 videos that have literally nothing to do with anything that I'm doing. It'll be like nothing but Pokemon videos or something. And I'm like, even as a kid, I didn't really watch that. Why is this all over my homepage? But then other times I'll be like, all right, I have, a new microphone or something, how to set up the blah, blah, blah microphone. And I look up one video tutorial, watch about 5 minutes of it before I figure out what I'm doing. And all of a sudden for the next month, my entire homepage is nothing but tech videos. And I'm like, calm down, I'm not that serious about it. I just needed to know how to set up a microphone. So it's nice having an algorithm that, for the most part, just shows me what I actually want to see. The one downside of TikTok that a lot of us who have enjoyed being on YouTube for any number of years have had is that technically some people have 10-minute videos now, but I still haven't seen very many who actually get to utilize that. For the most part, all of us have 3-minute videos. Most people, since they're just scrolling through their FYP and not actually physically seeking you out, don't want to stick around for anything longer than that. So yeah, you have to squish an enormous amount of thoughts, opinions, sometimes even facts with related links and proof of what you're claiming all into a 3-minute time period. And it can get extremely difficult since people don't want part 2s and part 3s. You do get kind of more used to it, but sometimes it's nice to just come back to YouTube and be like, I want to be able to talk about everything going on in my life right now, or something that I'm passionate about for like 20 minutes instead of 3. And some people are like, oh, well, just do the TikTok live streams. I don't know how many of you have been to a TikTok live stream, but they are an absolute no man's land. It's a lawless wasteland. It is the weirdest fucking thing ever. Like, I figured it would be more or less like YouTube live streams or Twitch, where you see some people who are related to the content that you enjoy. But no, live streams have their own entire tab on TikTok. And if you just tap on that tab and scroll through, you get bizarre shit. There's people literally just sleeping on camera for like 6 hours, and you're like, okay. And then people are donating to them while they're dead asleep. Like, they're not faking or anything. They're dead asleep, and people are donating money to them for sleeping. I'm like, what the fuck? Then you'll have people who are like, try to scare the shit out of me, and you like send a certain donation and it prompts a certain sound that's hooked up to like headphones they're wearing or something, and it's just weird. You have people that'll like dress up as the Joker with tiny little rubber hands on and stuff and using like a weird voice, and I don't really know. I'm happy for them that somehow this content is bringing them some kind of revenue. I don't understand it. I've done a couple of TikTok lives when I have enough to say for them, but for the most part, I just kind of stay in my lane and just stream on Twitch every night instead, because I'm like, I don't know what's going on here. Like, is this its own planet? What is this? But yeah, I had enough going on in my life right now that I could actually warrant making a YouTube video out of it for anyone who's interested. This is kind of more or less in like the style of years ago when I first started my YouTube account, and I would just kind of do little life updates here and there on what's going on with me. Extremely fucking busy. As of like 8:30 something in the morning, I have my first niece this morning, so there was that. My mom was cracking me up because she was being herself and being super weird about it. It's like my sister was having absolutely no complications in her pregnancy. She was having no complications whatsoever in labor and delivery. And the second her husband was like, oh yeah, the baby's out, my mom's just like, did they check the kidneys? Did they check this and that and stuff? And I was just like, calm down. Like, I'm pretty sure if anything had gone horribly wrong, somebody would have mentioned something. So just relax. You've had 3 kids. You know that right now she wants everyone to just leave her the hell alone. The best thing you can do is leave her the hell alone. But on to slightly more dystopian news, because I live in the United States and you can't go a single day living here without dystopian news. Last night I saw a video with a petition and something written up circulating along with it stating that other countries are taking note of how terribly LGBTQIA people are being treated in the United States right now, and that some of them are beginning to seriously consider offering asylum to LGBTQ citizens of the United States who do not feel safe here anymore. And I was just like, how fucked as a country do you have to get to reach a point where other countries start extending asylum to your own citizens because of how horribly they're being treated? But then like that kind of got a absolute spiral of thought process going in me, because I was like, one, the first country, no surprise, that's offering this is Canada. But Canada gets this reputation, especially in the United States, as being this almost perfect country that, oh, it's so socialist, it's so wonderful, and everyone is so kind, and they treat each other well, and the government is so much better than the United States, and everything is such a wonderful place to live. You should move there, you should move there. Basically, every time anything's gone wrong in the United States, people's default is move to Canada. But I'm like, I listen to Canadian citizens when they're speaking online. I know Canadian people because I grew up in an area right near Canada, and a lot of them just went to school where I went to school and stuff. And it's not as perfect as we make it out to be. I don't know why we put Canada on this pedestal of perfection all the time when it isn't. Like, yes, it's arguably much better as a whole than the United States is, but there's still some serious issues going on. And that's something that I mentioned on a TikTok this morning. I was like, so Canada is extending refugee status to United States citizens who are part of the LGBTQIA community so that we can feel safe. They're currently looking for households in Canada who are willing to take us in and make sure that we're okay and that our needs are met and stuff. And that's all well and good, but I was like, many of us are not just LGBTQ. Many of us are also disabled. Canada currently has something called the MAID program. And for anyone who doesn't know what the MAID program is, essentially what it was supposed to be when they drafted it, when they took it to their, is it Parliament in Canada? When they took it to their Parliament and they explained it, what it's supposed to be is that if someone has a terminal illness, they're absolutely going to die, but they're going to die slowly. They're going to lose all quality of life. They won't be able to take care of themselves anymore. Potentially, they could hang on for years, just endlessly suffering. The MAID program is a medically assisted death program, which means that if you can prove that you're terminal and your prognosis is going to get worse and worse, you have the option to take a medication at whatever point you're ready to take it, and within half an hour of taking it, you'll be gone, which means that you can surround yourself with family and friends and people who love you and have like a big party celebrating your life. You can essentially be there for your own funeral if you want to. And in theory, I think it's a wonderful thing. I believe Sweden already has something similar, or Netherlands, some really northern country like that. And I think that if used properly, it's an amazing idea. I've seen too many people in my own life who were terminally ill that because their family members didn't want to let go of them, they had to just hang on for endless years, suffering, feeling terrible, constantly actually telling me the words, I keep hoping that I fall asleep tonight and I never wake back up. I don't want to keep living like this. It's so painful. It's so difficult. And anyone who has a chronic illness can tell you, if you have any kind of health problem where you slowly start losing your ability to physically take care of yourself, it is awful. It's really undignified. A lot of people who are supposed to be taking care of you start to resent you and not want to have to take care of you to the extent that they do. And it's a really difficult way to live. And the fact that if you want to continue living as long as you can, you're able to is wonderful. But at any point, if you're like, I can't do this anymore, you have that option. That's how they pitched it to their parliament. However, that is not what has happened at all. Even the people who signed into law and agreed to it are horrified by what it's become. Because just like with the United States, the MAID program in Canada has become a dystopian nightmare. It's become a tool for lazy medical professionals, essentially. Medical professionals who are like, I don't feel like taking care of my chronically ill patients anymore, or I don't like the homelessness problem in the area I live in, are just offering the MAID program to people, and people who don't want to die are dying on it. There have been multiple news stories that are very easy to find online where someone is chronically ill, they can no longer obtain the services necessary to take care of themselves, and they're immediately offered the MAID program. And these people are sitting there on television crying their eyes out saying, I don't want to die, but they're not giving me a choice. They won't take care of me. They won't give me the tools necessary to take care of myself. I have no other choice. And it's also, as I mentioned before, eradicating the homelessness problem there. Instead of actually utilizing the socialist services they have and making like a small homelessness community, they're choosing to put these people on the MAID program instead. And people are like, this is eugenics. And they're calling it out, rightly so. It is eugenics. You found a group of people you find unsightly that you don't want associated with your country anymore, and you're literally killing them when they don't want to die. And as I said, even some of the people who voted it in are absolutely horrified now. They're like, this is not what you said this program would be. This is not what we agreed to. What the fuck is going on? But for everyone shouting from the rooftops about how awful it is and how they don't agree with it, really there's been very little progress in getting rid of this program. So when I was talking about it on my TikTok this morning, I was like, what's the point in me moving from the United States to Canada? In the United States, because I exist under the trans umbrella, a bunch of people want me to die. They're doing everything in their power to make it so I physically cannot exist in this country. They're taking away every right that they possibly can and basically making it so it's like, get the fuck out of our country or die. Those are your only options. But then I'd be going to Canada, another country where because I'm disabled, they'd be like, get the fuck out of our country or die. I'm going from one country that wants me to die to another country that wants me to die. What is the point? Not to mention the fact that I was like, even for purposes of asylum, people still, they've always had this weird idea that everything is as simple as move away from where you currently are. And I'm like, have you literally never moved house in your entire life? Because I feel like the only way you'd think it's that easy is if you've never moved house in your entire life. Moving house, even just one town over, is so time consuming and so outrageously expensive. When I moved into the house I'm currently in, I only moved about 10-15 minutes away from where I used to live when I first started my YouTube channel, and even that took thousands of dollars because our furniture is antique. It's antique wood. It weighs a fucking ton. We don't have a truck. Even our friends with a pickup truck, like there's too much of it to load onto there. So we had to get big semi-trucks, U-Haul trucks to load everything that we own into and transport it here. Plus the fact that you've got, Whether you're renting a house or whether you're buying a house, there's some kind of down payment situation, which right now is atrociously expensive. And you'd have to get a passport if you don't have a passport right now, which many people don't, because if they expire during quarantine, a lot of us just haven't had a chance to go and get it sorted out. My ID, my state ID itself is very expired right now because it expired during COVID. And even after quarantine, I started getting COVID. I couldn't leave my house or anything. It's just been a whole thing where even my ID is expired. And I'm like, it takes a lot of money. It takes a lot of time. And on top of that, you are leaving everything you know. You're not just moving states. You're not just moving a town over. You're moving to an entire new country with its own culture. Some of it has its own language, like French Canada and stuff is even different to French people. It's difficult, and you're leaving behind the people that you've surrounded yourself and everything that you've known your entire life. And like I said, it's not like they're making this great incentive to do all of that work, given the fact that, like I said, I'm leaving one country that wants me dead for another. What is the point? And the question I posed at the end of my TikTok video this morning was, how can I feel safe in any country right now? Because we're not the only ones doing this stuff. Like, you've got Canada doing that. They also have a police brutality issue. It's just not quite on the scale of the United States. Thank fuck, nobody should be. It also has an issue with its indigenous residents. There's indigenous tribes right now physically digging up the remains of their own children from these old residential Catholic schools where they were basically converted into being more white and tortured to death, babies and children. They're using their own ground-penetrating radar to find them. They're digging them up themselves because the most that the Canadian government offered them was, whoops, sorry. And it was like, no, what the fuck? Put your resources into this. Get the military involved since they have like the money and equipment and stuff to help them. Spend your money on it. Like, if you've got any excess, spend money on helping them. They shouldn't have to do this themselves. So I'm like, it's really not much better. In the UK, there's also a lot of anti-trans and anti-queer laws that they're trying to pass and stuff. I'm like, where is safe? How do I feel safe in any country these days? It's damn near impossible. Not to mention, there's something that feels really fucked about the fact that Canada was instantly like, oh, we see a lot of anti-trans legislature on the American docket. Let's instantly offer them asylum here. What the fuck about the indigenous and black population? Have you not seen what's happening to black people here lately? For real, like, how can you not? I swear I can't go a single week on the internet without seeing another one get killed by police for some stupid arbitrary reason because that policeman was in a bad mood that day. And I'm like, why were we the special ones? If you're extending asylum to one minority in this country, you should be extending it to all, because yes, queer people, especially trans and non-binary people, our lives are very much at risk in the United States right now. There's no arguing that our lives are at risk. We're about to have, as I mentioned in my last video, less rights than fucking livestock here. That is dangerous. They're trying to get rid of us. They're trying to eradicate us. It is a bad problem. We do need help. But at the same time, right now, yes, there are anti-trans murders. There always have been, but it's nowhere near the scale of what happens to black people. Black people are reaching a point where they are uncomfortable leaving their house to go to work because doing anything, getting groceries, going to the library, going to work, going to see your friends and family puts them at direct risk of being shot to death or beat to death right now. Can you imagine what that must feel like, being that terrified? I'm getting damn close, but not, again, to the same degree, and it's not the same kind of fear. So I'm really annoyed with these countries who are like, if you're queer, come on over, but they're not doing the same thing for the black community, and they're not doing the same thing for the indigenous community, who are also going through their own, basically, genocides themselves. And the other random topic that entered my brain space this morning that I wanted to kind of yammer about that's directly related to all this dystopian nightmare is the fact that a lot of people are getting really depressed. Like, there's a bunch of studies coming out that are like, oh, people are, more mentally ill than they've ever been in, like, the history of the U.S. Like, why are the youth so depressed? Why are, like, millennials and Gen Z so hopeless? No matter what solutions you try to offer them, they just naysay it and push it away and stuff, and you just can't get through to them. They're just so mentally ill. What is going on that's causing it? And I'm like, have you looked outside, guys? Like, the environment is dying. Big corporations have basically destroyed it. Even if all of us banded together to try to recycle really well and do our part to do better for the environment, it wouldn't really matter, because as long as the rich 1% keeps doing what they're doing, it's fucked regardless. Like, we only have so much power. There's only so much that we can personally do. Then you've got multiple atrocities going on. There's, let's get rid of all the queer and trans people. Let's get rid of the black people. Let's get rid of the Asian people. Anti-Semitic rhetoric is at an all-time high again, like as high as it was during World War II, which is not something you should want. The vote no longer matters, because even if a state votes in someone really socialist and they're like, oh, good, things are actually going to change for the better now, if they have a majority Republican House in that state, they can just override them. And what's even the point of voting at this point if they're just going to override you, and the Supreme Court's going to do whatever the fuck they want, and everyone in Parliament and everyone in Congress is a fucking dinosaur who's completely out of touch with what the world is like these days, because they're rich and old, and at least in this country, they don't have term limits. They can effectively have the same job until they die. So someone really out of touch who has no idea what it's like to live life as a typical American citizen is writing all of the laws and going, what's wrong? I remember during Trump's presidency at one point, I believe he and one of the members of Congress, who were quite old and quite rich at the time, said something like, I don't understand why the average American is so upset about, health care in America. Isn't it only $35 a year? What? If you're lucky, it's $35 a week. If you're lucky. For many people, it's more. I think last year, my health care was something in the range of like $80 a week from my pay. And I'm like, it still doesn't cover everything. You still have a giant medical bill at the end of all that. What's even the point? And for a lot of people, you have to meet this stupid deductible, meaning you don't even get to use your medical insurance until you have spent a certain amount of money. So you're still paying the full amount out of pocket anyway. Again, what's the fucking point? So healthcare is shit. The way we treat humans here is shit. The laws are shit. The people in power are shit. And I'm like, and their only solution is, here's more mental health resources. Here's more online resources for mental health. Now you don't have to go to a therapist's office. You can chat. They think the solution is, oh, millennials and Gen Z don't like talking on the phone that much, so we'll give them a chat function where they can talk to a therapist instead. And I'm like, that's not solving the problem. Your only solution to all of these issues, these systemic issues going on in this country, is throw mental health care at it. And I'm like, two big problems right off the bat for you there. One, with how insane inflation is in this country right now, where people can't even afford to heat their homes and buy food. How the hell are we supposed to afford mental health care? And even if we get it, if the therapist determines that we need mental health medication, how do we afford our medication when copays keep on going up? And some places suddenly decide, we don't accept your insurance anymore, so now it's $300 for a single pill of your medication. How is that helpful? Not to mention the fact that several of us have made poor therapists on TikTok just sit there blinking at their screen, unsure of what to say to retort this, but we're like, what's the point of getting therapy right now? It's not going to fix anything. It is a bandage, a temporary solution to a permanent problem. Going and talking to someone about how dystopian our society is isn't going to fix it. It's not going to fix the systemic issues, and as long as these systemic issues exist here, how are we supposed to be happy? Yes, we do know how to be happy in the moment. We do have those shining moments where we're having fun with our family, or we're having fun with our friends or something, or there is something good in our life. But for the most part, it is doom and gloom, because of how we're being treated here. And I'm like, you can get therapy 4 times a week if you want to. It still isn't going to make a difference for some people because of how bad things are. If you want people to stop being so depressed, fix the issues. It's that simple. But I promise, like, overall, I'm doing my best to be somewhat okay. I think that anything I am currently upset about, it's well warranted. I think I'm allowed to be upset about those things. I think I'm allowed to feel a little doom and gloom about them because of the fact that I am unfortunately a part of a few different branches of humanity that people generally decide that they don't want around anymore, and that's not a very good feeling. But I am keeping myself busy. I'm currently working on the 3rd volume of our graphic novel Faust, which is like a gender-bent retelling of Faust set in this like steampunk society. I've kind of flipped some of the more didn't age very well aspects of that story on its head and made it my own, and it's been our best seller so far, which is amazing. I love the fact that we can't keep it on the shelves because people are buying it so much and loving it. It feels really good. It's helping me to pay the bills. I love the fact that for 6 months, doing what I love has paid the bills in full, because I don't want to get too far into it because I don't think it's like the internet's business, but like my fiance and I both ended up getting a really bad strain of COVID, even though we did everything right. But again, people won't just stay masked up, people won't get the vaccine, so it's going to be here forever essentially, just because I can't do a simple thing, follow a simple instruction. And long haul COVID hit us hard. It did give us some heart problems, it gave us blood pressure problems. Being in your early 30s with heart problems is not a fun time. And because it's attached to long haul COVID and they're still trying to study that, learn the long-term effects and stuff, and understand how to properly treat it, they're very apprehensive about giving like prescription meds out for some of this, because they're like, well, if it turns out it's all related to COVID and long haul COVID stuff needs its own thing in the future, they don't want to accidentally have like misdiagnosed you or given you the wrong meds for a long time. So it's more or less like throw Advil at it for the most part and take some blood pressure vitamins and hope for the best. So we get to the point where if we have like a convention that's 3 hours away, sometimes we have to stop, at a gas station or a McDonald's or something, like up to 3 or 4 times in that 3-hour period, because one of us will suddenly be like, hold on. Not to mention, oh God, trying to visit my family that is like a 7 to 8 hour drive away has been interesting, because I lost count last time. I think one of the times we had to stop 6 times on the way there and on the way back, because one of us was just like, I'm dying, pull over. So yeah, I feel very fortunate. We're by no means rich or anything. Like, there's still months where we struggle a little bit more, and there's still months where things are tough, especially with inflation. But on the whole, I love the fact that if I have a convention one month and my commissions are going well and the book sales are going well, I can more or less sustain myself off of art, basically. And if you ever want to see what I'm doing with my art, I do have a Twitch account. It's madstheghostyt, and I stream there literally every single night at 9:30 p.m. Eastern time. I am in Pennsylvania, remember, so you'll have to adjust your clocks accordingly for that. It's usually gaming content, but it's a safe space. We do talk about like hard-hitting issues in there. It's kind of an any topic goes situation. But sometimes in the afternoon, if I have a little extra time, I also do art-related streams where you can watch me working on whatever I'm currently working on. So there's a couple of those. One of them I've uploaded to my YouTube because I thought it was interesting. But yeah, that's all I really have to say for today. It was just one of those I have thoughts to get out of my brain so I don't pop type days. But I hope all of you have a wonderful day, and make sure you're taking care of yourselves.